Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fifth installation of Conversations. I'm Judy Loeb, and I am the Assistant Executive Director of the Jewish Community Center. And Conversations is a part of our programming. Tonight, the fifth installment of Conversations is the Lenore Marwil Detroit Jewish Film Festival. Tonight's program combines two things that I'm very excited about. One is this popular conversation series that you're a part of tonight, featuring luminaries from arts, culture, education, and the highly acclaimed and much loved Lenore Marwil Detroit Jewish Film Festival. If you enjoy tonight's program on films, I'd highly recommend you coming back in 2 weeks and a day for our conversations to hear award-winning set designer Jim Hewitt, who will give a behind-the-scenes look at films from a set designer's perspective. And that's going to be on Thursday, October 1st at 7 p.m. While you're on our YouTube channel, please subscribe, like this video, and click the little notification bell so that you will always know when we add a new video or a live virtual event. During the broadcast, you'll have a chance to write comments and ask questions in the comment box or text your questions to the number on the screen. We'll try to answer as many of your comments and questions as possible. Tonight's event is a preview of our very first virtual film festival, which runs October 4th through the 30th in your own home. We hope you can join us for a wide array of films and live discussions that we have planned. All of the details you can find on our website at culturalartsjccdet.org/film festival. And if you love films and you think that you might enjoy our film festival, I highly recommend that you also consider becoming a pass holder. There's a lot of extra perks that you get, including being able to watch all of the films unlimited. And so it should be a very good value, and I think you'll enjoy it. Tonight, our host is Allen Maniker. And although I have notes on Allen, I don't really need them because Allen happens to be my cousin. We grew up together. He lived in Southfield, Michigan, where he went to Southfield High School, went to U of M. He became a dancer. He became a neurosurgeon, then retired, became a docent at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and serves on the board of the Martha Hill Dance Fund and a chairman of the board of Steps Beyond Foundation. Allen and I came up with this conversations idea with Jaemi and others, and I hope that you are really enjoying it because I know I enjoy every week seeing who Allen has gotten to come or every week, every time we have it, and talk to interesting people. So tonight's program is going to be extremely interesting, featuring some wonderful people connected to the Detroit Film, the Jewish Film Festival. So it's my pleasure to welcome my cousin, Allen Maniker.
Thank you, Judy. I like that my greatest qualification is that I'm your cousin,
well,
which is great. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight and for supporting this ongoing series, Conversations, sponsored by the Jewish Community Center of Metropolitan Detroit. Tonight, we have a really special panel for you that is surrounding the Lenore Marwil Detroit Jewish Film Festival. And let me share my screen here for a moment so that I can share with you the panelists, who are Jaemi Loeb. Jaemi is the Senior Director of Cultural Arts, and she came to the JCC in 2018. She serves as Director of the Detroit Jewish Book Fair, the Detroit Jewish Film Festival, and Seminars for Adult Jewish Enrichment, SAGE. She spearheaded the JCC's Cultural Arts Department move into the virtual realm. Before coming to the JCC, Jaemi was an orchestra conductor and college professor. We also have Eric Lumberg. Eric has been chair of the Lenore Marwil Detroit Jewish Film Festival Committee for several years. Having served on the board of the JCC, he has been active around metropolitan Detroit Jewish community. He is an attorney with a law firm in West Bloomfield. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, Elliot Wilhelm. Elliot has been the director and curator of the Detroit Film Theater since its creation in the 1970s. As one of the deans of the Southeast Michigan film scene, he works with Cinetopia and countless film creation and presentation organizations. He is a champion of emerging and local filmmakers while also working hard to preserve and promote classic films. He has been a radio and TV broadcaster and is a longtime friend of the Detroit Jewish Film Festival. So please do join me in welcoming Jaemi, Eric, and Elliot. And
Hello,
here we
Ellen.
are. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening. Welcome to our illustrious panel. So, as Judy mentioned, and I probably don't need to remind anyone, these are really challenging times with this pandemic. And clearly it's had an effect on everybody's life. But I'm curious as to how it specifically will affect the film festival and the way it's presented this year. And I'll just throw it out to whoever wants to tackle that.
Well, I'll tackle that. Well, usually our film festival is in May, so we can start there. It obviously did not happen in May because everything was shut down. Usually it happens at the JCC in our Berman Theater, which is a beautiful space, and we're so disappointed not to see everyone there. But the opportunities that have come around because we're presenting virtually are really special. So the films will be available October 4th through the 30th to watch whenever you want, on demand. It's like watching something on Netflix. It's really easy. We'll also have a series of film discussions, which I'll let Elliot talk about in just a minute. But the convenience of watching whenever you want, and to some extent wherever you want, I think, and I hope, will make engaging with the film festival a lot easier for a lot more people. It also means it's a lot easier for us to invite filmmakers, directors, actors from all over the world to be part of these film discussions. Usually we're limited by how many people we can fly from all over the world and how busy they are and all of that. But with the ability for them to just turn us on in their bedroom or their living room or wherever they keep their computer and say hello and talk with us for an hour has really expanded our reach in that regard. So Elliot, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about our film discussions?
I will be delighted to. There are going to be a lot of them, and we'll be able to talk to, as you pointed out, people from everywhere. When we generally had a film discussion in our brick and mortar pre-March days at the DIA, it was always a matter of serious budget issues to bring in filmmakers, to bring in other people who would be on a panel. And suddenly things have changed, and there are things that are regrettable, that we all can't sit together in a room and experience a film together on the big screen. But making the best of it, one of the things that is very exciting about this is the ability to bring people together from all corners of the globe. And I have to say, Jaemi, I'm getting ready for this experience in a big way, because beginning the Friday before last, up through last Saturday, I spent 9 solid days at the Toronto International Film Festival, which happens to have been about 4 steps from where I am right now. I moved my computer into a different room, but it was completely virtual. I've gone to the Toronto Festival for, well over 20 years, and this was a brand new experience for them as well. And I found myself really able to get engrossed in the films that I saw, sometimes in a way that I wasn't able to when I was watching them in a room full of other people. And it turned out to be a really exciting experience to be able to do it that way, and also in an on-demand format, in which you can start a film when you want to start a film and work it around your schedule. You're able to get in a lot more. I saw more than 25 films in those days and was trying to pretend I was working also at the same time. And I'm in the middle of the New York Film Festival right now, also in exactly the same chair for all of them, and am really, really looking forward to the Marwil Film Festival to be able to see a completely different aspect of some of the most exciting films being made around the world right now, and to be able to talk to the people who created them. Because if we lose something in having regular folks sitting around us to talk about films, we're going to be gaining something by having the people involved in their creation to not only talk about their specific films, most of which were made pre-pandemic, but also what they see for the future, what they see for the future of cinema, film exhibition, film production. These are all really interesting questions that are being worked out in everybody's mind right now who has anything to do with movies, whether it's making them, exhibiting them, writing about them, or simply talking about them. And those are all issues that I want to explore in addition to the individual films. So I'm very pumped because it's what I love to do, and I'm going to get to do it. So
Elliot mentioned watching on his computer, which everybody can absolutely watch all the films on their computer, but you can also watch on your smart TV.
Right.
If your TV has a Roku built in, or attached to it, or you have an Apple TV, we have a Detroit Jewish Film Festival TV channel / app that you can find in your channel / app store. And it's really pretty. Like I said, it's sort of like that film festival Netflix. I'm very excited about it because I'm sort of, techie, but
which puts this festival, by the way, a step above both Toronto and New York.
See that?
That was something that they were not really prepared to do yet, except by very wonky means. So this is really exciting.
We really want to make it easy for everyone because we want everyone involved.
Wow. And no one will ever know how much popcorn you've eaten.
That's a good point. I like that.
Incredible as it may seem, I was popcorn free the entire time of the Toronto festival. Normally, when you have to walk from one theater to another, you work it off a little bit. But sitting in one spot, you start putting in the popcorn, I would begin to doze off. So I was very monk-like about it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So clearly a different format this year, but with clear advantages as well.
Yep.
That's kind of a nice thing to know that's a possibility and all of the advantages that it offers. So I'm curious, can you all pick out a film or two that you're especially eager for the public to see? And while you're pointing those films out, tell us why you think they're good for the public to see.
Well, I can start. I obviously have a lot of films that I think everyone should see. And I think that this format, being able to stream them for a longer period of time whenever you want, really gives everyone the opportunity to see even more films than they normally would. A lot of people come to the Berman and see maybe 6 or 8 films. This year with the festival pass, they have the opportunity to see them all without missing work or taking time off work or whatever. I'm going to talk about a couple of films. I love films that have subject matter that really could be anywhere in the world. They could take place anywhere in the world. But because of our mission and the films that we seek out, they happen to take place in Israel. They don't necessarily deal with Israel or Jewish culture. They deal with human culture. And 2 of them, The Art of Waiting and Flawless, are really films that could have been made anywhere. They certainly could have been made in the U.S. independent film movement, and shown at the Maple. The Art of Waiting is about a couple going through infertility issues, dealing with the stigma attached to it, which in Israel is somewhat of a taboo that culture doesn't really want to talk about, as happens other places in the world. It's a great drama with some lightheartedness, some funny parts, and a great drama to watch. And then the other one is Flawless. And we like to look for films that deal with a wide variety of topics. And this one dealing with gender issues and peer pressure is a great film to watch if you have teenagers in your home or grandkids that are teenagers. It really is a great story. And while it takes place in Israel and deals with some Israeli teen girls, it's universal. It shows some issues that the teens deal with all over the world, certainly in the U.S., with a little bit of a twist that you hope is not real, but is. I'm not going to give too much away. So those are two films right off the bat that I think everyone is going to really like and really continue to talk about after they watch them. Jaemi, what about you?
So, like Eric, I am partial to many, many of these films. So we'll talk a little bit about how we choose these films later, but Eric and I watch every single one. And so we get partial to many of them. I have so many favorites. The one that stands out the most is it's called Dues Points, and I'm putting the link for details into the comments. And Eric is sick of me talking about this film. I love it so much. It's silly, it's fun. So Israeli comedies tend towards the zany. There isn't a lot of sort of subtle comedy, I guess, in Israeli film. There's some, certainly, but it tends towards the zany, and I love zany. So this film is literally a farce, in that there are these different groups of people sort of converging on fictional Eurovision Tel Aviv, and each one is sort of bumbling and ridiculous in their own particularly hilarious way. And at the center of it is a sort of adorable little romance story of these two young men sort of coming to terms with themselves and their past and all of that. But it includes perhaps my new favorite line of all film ever. So there's this Mossad agent interrogating someone. He gives us some bombas, the little peanut butter poof snack things. They have them at Trader Joe's. What do they call them at Trader Joe's?
Bonbons?
There we go. Maybe. It's like cheesy poofs, but there's peanut butter in the middle and it's peanut buttery. Anyway, they're just little snacky things. And he says to this guy, he's like, yeah, these are really good. They're the best Israeli invention since the Uzi. Which I guess, it's kind of not something that sticks with you. So the other film we just added, to the point where I'm having trouble finding it on the website, so it may take me a minute to put the link in there. It's called The Damned, and it is sort of a horror film. We don't show a lot of horror films because the horror films made with Jewish content tend not to be great. But this one is really very good. It's somewhere in between a horror film and a thriller, I guess. There's a lot of what's real, what's not real. There's a lot of sort of tense, dark situations. There's not a lot of, oh my God, something's jumping out at me. That I can't stand in a movie. I have no tolerance for that. So, but The Damned, I really enjoyed. It's visually stunning. And it it deals with the insecurities and fears that on the one hand are very particular to Israel because it's sort of desert centric, but on the other hand are very much about, you know, that they're young Israeli soldiers who go out into the desert and weird trippy things ensue. It's a bit like Blair Witch Project meets the IDF. So these are young men. They're in their, you know, there may be 20s. So it's about their insecurities that are very, I think, very common to that like transition moment between adolescence and adulthood. And it deals with that in a way that I thought was very interesting. So I'm going to find the link for that and put that. So those are my two picks. Very different.
Are there trailers to look at?
Yeah, so these links that I'm posting are the sort of detail page for the films, and there are trailers there. If you go to our main website, you can see the whole lineup. I'll put that in the comments link. Oh wait, hold on, I can do one better. Here is the film festival website. There it is. You can see the entire lineup there. And you can browse by category. You can just see it all alphabetically, whatever's easier for you. And whenever you click on a film, you'll see all of the details and a trailer.
Terrific.
Yep.
So how are these films selected? Is there a certain eligibility for inclusion and a criteria? Can you fill us in on that?
I'll let Eric start on that one.
Sure. So we have a basic set of guidelines that each film, excuse me, has to have Jewish content or themes. It can be the whole movie or just something in the film, or that it come from the Israeli film industry. We are eager to support that industry. That industry has boomed in the last 5-10 years, and the quality of the films coming out of Israel has just skyrocketed. Where 10 years ago, the films really just seemed to be all the same. They were documentaries about life in Israel, all happy-go-lucky, positive things. And it's really developed into more of an independent film industry. They're not making superhero movies. They're not making action movies. They're just making high-quality dramas and romances that appeal to a huge audience. And I think that our regular film goers know that over the past year, they can see the quality and how they've increased. And some of the best movies we've shown are just movies that happen to take place in Israel, but deal with everyday issues, everyday problems that could go on, like I said earlier, around the world. So we
even, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, I'm just going to interject there a little bit. This year, what seems unusual, we have 2 films that are Israeli films, like made by Israeli production companies, but are filmed all over. Like Deuce Points, it's in France, it's in all over the Middle East, it's in Israel, it's all over. It's an Israeli film. Back to Maracana takes place in Israel, in Germany, in Brazil, and it's an Israeli film. So the Israeli film industry, I think, has gotten to a point where they like to shoot on location. They like field trips now.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm curious because so I clearly understand how the Israeli film industry is an important part of the festival. But tell me, outside of Israel, with the European films and the American films, is there much of a Jewish or a Jewish-related content to choose from? Like, can you give a kind of ballpark number of what kind of films we're talking about looking at in Europe and in the States?
Yeah, there really is a lot of films from all over the world, and every year it's different. We've had films, I mean, from China, from Macedonia, from Albania, virtually every country in the world. Well, close to it. That deal with different Jewish topics, and they come to us in a variety of ways. Some are sent to us, submitted. Some come through distributors, and then a lot of them are actually found by Jaemi or I or the other committee members or other film goers. One of my favorite films this year, actually, Budapest Noir, came to us by one of our patrons, and he saw it at another film festival in Arizona and loved it, called me the next day and said, Eric, you've got to get this film. It's great. You're going to love it. Jaemi and I found it and loved it. And you know, thank goodness he suggested it. I think I mentioned it, Budapest Noir.
Yeah, wow. So so you do have much more choice than just the Israeli film industry.
Of course.
Yeah, is great.
We also do have films in English, FYI. We have, I mean, a lot of our films do have subtitles, of course, and are from all over the world, but we have films in English as well. We have one film called Abe, about a kid in Brooklyn who has one set of grandparents is from Israel, the other set of grandparents is Palestinian. So it's you know, family tension that gets resolved through cooking. It's very cute. It's a family movie. It's an American movie. Another one is called Extra Innings. It's about a kid growing up in an immigrant Jewish family, and he wants to play baseball, but the father wants him to go to the family business. And, you know, that kind of, it's a bit like Stand By Me, but, you know, different.
But that's an American film, Jaemi?
It's an American film, yeah. And
well,
is there another one?
Let me interject, Jaemi, if I can, for a second. People always ask, are there films to watch with kids?
Yes.
Those are two great examples.
Yes.
So, you know, grandkids, kids, the whole family can get together and watch specifically these two great films.
Yeah. The other one that I think would be great for families and is also an American film is called Autism the Musical. And this was sort of a late edition because we had trouble getting the rights from HBO. But it's a documentary about this program in, I want to say California. I've forgotten. I'm so sorry. But this really fascinating program, this woman who works with autistic kids and works with them through theater. They put on a show and, you know, you get to see them sort of go through this process. And there's also a sequel that comes back and follows the kids when they're entering adulthood. So it's, you know, it's great for families if they're interested in theater programs, if they're interested in special needs issues, or if they just like musicals, because who doesn't like a musical?
And I would also jump in here, if I may, and interject something that is to Eric's earlier point, determining a country of origin, what constitutes Israeli film. In a sense, it's almost like the automobile industry. For some time now, it's kind of difficult to tell, except maybe by a nameplate, where a car comes from. It comes from all over. And there is an international quality to Jewish themes and also to films that have to do with Israel or maybe made by Israeli directors. As somebody who's been going to film festivals for 40 plus years, I can tell you that even 20 years ago, a film that was listed as Israeli production was a novelty. It had to be something that people were talking about, saying, my God, Israelis have made a good picture. Or at least they've made an interesting picture that was selected for this film festival. It's kind of unusual and it would draw a lot of attention. That's not the case anymore because it's fairly routine to see a number of really good films listing Israel as the country of origin. But even more often than that, there are co-produced films. There is financing from companies and studios all over the world that have come together to make a film on a particular theme. And many of those have Jewish themes in them as part of what's going on. Some in their entirety, some are very Israel specific. But on that front, I think it's fairly good news, because there is an international quality about accepting and finding all sorts of things to chew on in Israeli films, not just in terms of subject matter, but in terms of actual quality of cinema. Some of the most innovative and beautifully told stories have been coming from that part of the world. So it's you're riding a great crest now in assembling this festival, and there's a great deal more to choose from. You don't have to take just anything you can find now in order to fill 23 slots. It's a matter of, I wish I could play them all, but I can't. So it's good news.
Well, so that brings up the question. So has there ever been any heated discussions for or against a film?
Oh, yeah.
Any fist fights you want to divulge?
No, Eric's a lot taller than me, so we usually avoid that. I will say one of the things I love about working with Eric is that he and I can vehemently disagree, and we're still friends, and it's totally fine. And that's how we're able to put on the best festival possible is because we respect each other's right to disagree.
And
have you actually had a film? Have you actually had a film where one of you said this is horrible and the other one says this is wonderful?
Well,
we've had debates, and we have a great film festival committee that also weighs in.
Yes.
And they really give us a broader opinion as to who a film is going to appeal to, and that's really what we're looking for. We want the best films for our audience. Mm-hmm. We want to expand our audience, but we also have an amazing core group of film goers that come and see a lot of films, and we want to pick films that they're going to enjoy, they're going to learn something, they're going to think about, they're going to debate. We don't always, there's always one or two that we think, well, not everyone is going to like this film, but they're going to think about it.
Exactly right. I'm gonna jump in again because this is my most exciting subject. Finding what it is that's going to engross an audience, as opposed to what is going to make absolutely everybody in the room guaranteed to be happy, to always be a feel-good experience. That's impossible to do, and to program an exciting festival or year-long program of films like the DFT. One of the questions we get asked most often, someone will call and read subject matter of a film, and they'll say, sounds depressing. Is this film depressing? The answer, of course, is maybe about a subject that could be considered depressing in some sense. But the fact that an important work of art can put you in touch with something that is going to strike a chord with a lot of people who may feel the same way. For example, I think there are going to be a lot of films coming out at some point about the pandemic, and they're not all going to be happy musicals, but they're all going to be films that people are going to want to see and have some kind of connection with. It's very important to understand that some people will love a film, some people won't. A couple will go to a movie and one will say that was the most horrible film, and the other person will say, are you kidding? Did we see the same film? Not really. You watched the same film, but you're going to have a personal experience that's going to be somewhat different. Early on and I'll end with this, earlier in the Detroit Film Theater's history, when we were showing a brand new film every weekend, there was some guy about the 6th or 7th week of the program who came out of a film, and he saw me and said, That was the worst picture I've ever seen. I'll see you next week. And he got it, which is that every film is selected or curated just as it is for this festival, because these films are worth your time. They deserve to be seen. They deserve to be presented. And it's not just because we know everyone is going to love every film. That common denominator is impossible to reach. But when you get somebody like that customer who understands that there are ideas here that you may not be necessarily comfortable with, or there's a genre of film that may not be your favorite, they are still worth your time. And they were selected for that reason. This is all cinema that is important. And whether it's your personal cup of tea always, can't be guaranteed, but they're all here for a reason.
Sorry, go ahead, Jaemi.
Oh, well, two things. One of the benefits of the festival pass is that you can see all the films and you can see them multiple times. So like if you watch 20 minutes of film and you're like, this is boring, you could just go to the next one. So highly recommended that festival pass. It also means you get, like, you log in once to your TV and it's poof, literally like Netflix. You just open it and poof. You don't have to deal with ticket codes or anything. But I want to give you an example of a polarizing film. It was called Mossad. And it is a comedy, a very zany comedy. If you like Airplane. Yeah. If you like Airplane, you will love this film.
It's one of the Zucker brothers, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So if you do not like Airplane, you will hate this film. So the reaction on the committee was really, there were some people who loved it and some people that hated it. And there was yelling is putting it strongly, but there was vigorous disagreement in the committee room when we discussed it. I love it, so I'm super happy that the consensus was in favor. But I like we've been saying, we want everyone to have a good experience. Not everyone will like every film, but if you like Airplane, you will love this film.
And who doesn't like airplanes?
I don't know. I don't want to know those people.
There are people that are just too stupid. I don't know.
Right. But so I understand the idea that not every film will be someone's cup of tea, but then talk to me about controversial films or controversial topics. Is this something that the Detroit Jewish Film Festival in particular has tackled in the past, is willing to tackle, presenting a really controversial topic?
Yeah.
And can you give an example?
So this year we and you're right, we have historically shown films that have some controversy or deal with controversial topics, and if the quality of the film is there and the reasoning of the film is there, we're going to show it. This year we're showing a film called Incitement. It's about the assassin of Yitzhak Rabin, told through the assassin's point of view. And in essence, the 2 years that led up to the assassination and what he dealt with, and the extreme polarization that was happening in Israel at the time, and the people that he was coming into contact with. Some try to kind of not deal with the potential problem that was coming. And this was a controversial film when it was shown in Israel. It is a really well done film. It raises a lot of questions. I think people are going to be talking about this film for a long time, and I'm excited that we're including it.
Yeah, I think it sort of depends on what you think of as controversial. So, for example, Flawless that Eric mentioned, one of the girls in the movie is trans. And for some people, that's going to feel new, different, controversial. I mean, I don't know that there's controversy over whether or not trans people exist. But, you know, again, some people have different senses of like, maybe edgy would be a better way to describe it. Another film that came to mind, well, we also show films that describe controversy, even if they aren't themselves controversial. For example, City of Joel is about the Satmar community. Is it Satmars, Eric? Am I remembering that right? I think. Well, a Hasidic community in the middle of New Jersey that have this essentially an enclave in the middle of this little town, and the controversy that erupted when they attempted to physically expand their space. So we like those kinds of films because it gives people a lot to talk about, and usually people learn a lot.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a time when there are so many things to say about the time we live in, but one of them is that people will retreat to their corners, for example, when it comes to watching cable news. We all know this. They'll watch an outlet that reinforces the positions they already have, and controversy to a particular audience will simply be a different point of view. The cinema still exists to bring ideas together that may not be that easy to classify. It may not always be that easy to say a movie is a comedy if it has, you know, funny elements in it, but is getting at something that at heart is quite serious. The cinema takes its time in telling stories that allows many points of view, many shades of gray, many ways of looking at a topic that we may not have looked at in the same way before, with 10-second sound bites that say, this is my position, and that's it. Controversy? Yes, that can come right away. If you see a film and you say, oh, where this is going, I don't like it. I don't like it. Somehow, very often with a great film, by the end, people are willing to look at things in a much more rounded point of view. The cinema is very important, and to just find films, it's one of the issues that I have with some of the streaming services, for example, is they tend to classify films as being this or this. But with the film festival like this one, people are going to have a curated experience in which they are going to be seeing films that were selected because of the skill and intelligence with which they were made. Not simply, well, I haven't seen this yet, pictures look cute, so I'll pull that where it's got somebody in it who I've heard of. The thing I enjoy best about going to a film festival or watching one virtually, like recently, Toronto, is that I will select films by people I haven't heard of, and see something that I don't even know what it is. I haven't quite read the description yet, but the people who program this festival, I trust. So I'm going to jump in and see what they're offering. And that prejudice of only selecting films that you think are going to reinforce your own point of view is prejudicial, and it excludes the possibility of controversy. So I say, keep an open mind, pick films that you may not think you'll like, or have never heard of before, or sound unusual, because you may never get the chance to see them again. And you may find your world is changed and your outlook has changed. That's what great film can do. And that's what a festival like this is for.
Terrific. That actually kind of leads into my next question. So are the films chosen all new release, contemporary, or do you also mix in classic films or films from a previous decade or whatnot?
So we do all. Oh, Eric, you go.
Well, let me just. I'll jump in and be quick. For the most part, the films are from the last 2 years. Every year for the last 4 or 5 years at least, we've always talked about showing a flashback film, a highlight from maybe 10 years ago. But But in the end, we have so many great films, and we're cutting out great films that we end up not showing anything old. So for the most part, they're recent releases. Jaemi?
This year, I was gonna say the same thing. This year, for example, we almost did a Mike Nichols retrospective, almost. But then there were just too many new films that we wanted to show, and we really want to support the new films, the emerging filmmakers, because festivals are really important to them as a stepping stone. And Elliot, you can talk about how that sort of sits within the industry.
Well, right now, this is such an unusual time. I've noticed all festivals that I'm familiar with, all the great ones, are grappling with the same issue, and that is there are no movie theaters. There are no small art houses right now that are open that people will go to as they did prior to March of this year on a regular basis because they trusted the theater, whether it be the FT, whether it be the Maple, whatever it is, in whatever city, people have theaters that they went to see things. There are a lot of movies out there now, terrific new films that may not be seen because streaming services may not pick them up. Festivals are not open for auditorium seating. These are really tough times in terms of filmmakers getting the films they made, most of them, pre-pandemic at this point, getting them seen. It's the duty of a festival like this to present these important new films so that people will have a chance and an opportunity, not just a chance to see them, but have them called to their attention by a team of programmers who are looking through all of the stuff that's out there. And, even though there is a backlog of films that haven't been seen, they're not all good. They're not all worth your time. But by having a programming committee that takes that task on and says, here is the most interesting stuff that's out there. Take your choice, try to see them all, as many as you can, but it's an opportunity to stay in the loop and to keep up with what world cinema is doing and to watch the progression of thought and storytelling prior to this thing that's happened to us. And it's an invaluable opportunity. The classics, the ones that we know are great, will continue to be restored and will continue to be made available. But I think this festival, like many others, has the obligation to present new work now, and that's what we're doing.
And I agree. And we've always said that 90% of our films, the only place you're going to see them is at a Jewish film festival, Detroit, or if you're lucky, somewhere else. But one or two will get picked up by Netflix, or HBO. There'll be a couple that'll end up at the Maple or DFT. But for the most part, you're only going to see it at the Jewish Film Festival.
And I'm sorry, did you mention, maybe I heard 23? Is that how many films are in the festival?
I think it's 24 now.
That's right. With them,
yeah.
24.
We much to my chagrin, because I am a planner, we did have a couple of films in the last few days finalized that the whole world of online licensing and screening rights has had to try and figure itself out very quickly. And so not every producer and not every distributor is allowing their films to be screened digitally for various reasons. And so there's been some finalizing happening. So we did add a couple of films. So we're up to, I believe it's 24.
There's never been a change in the movie industry this dramatic that happened this quickly. There have been situations like World War II when entire studios were taken over, like the Walt Disney Studio taken over for military use. There has been panic when television came in. There was panic when streaming came in. But to not have films being made at the moment and not have theaters to show them in, this has never happened before. And so everything is reinventing itself. And a festival like this one provides some continuity. And that's really, really important.
Got it. Does someone want to have the last word?
Eric? He's a lawyer.
We had this festival planned, ready to go in May, and we had a committee meeting in March when things were changing on an hourly basis, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. And within a day or two, it became very clear that we were not going to have the festival as it was, and we had to reinvent ourselves. And thankfully, with Jaemi and Elliot coming on board and the rest of the committee, it's a little later than we planned, but it's an amazing film festival and a great opportunity for everyone to be very comfortable at home, steps away from the kitchen with whatever you want to snack on, and curling up with a blanket and a nice drink and watching some great films. And I hope everyone takes advantage of it.
But put your phone away.
That's
Put
right.
your iPads away. Watch these films as if you were in a theater watching them. They will be far more rewarding than if you try to do jigsaw puzzles at the same time because you're used to all of this stuff. Make this the opportunity that it is, which is to go back to the movies and to spend time with the films and to concentrate on the films. Try not to stop them and start them again the next day. Watch them in one sitting. Give yourself that opportunity, or do what I do and get up at 5 a.m. and watch early with coffee when you are still really alert. The day's beginning. Get a couple in before the workday begins.
You've
lots of ways.
And then of course, either before or after the films, we have all these great speakers that everyone can join in on too.
That's right. You want to be awake for that.
Yeah. So actually, someone has asked, what about the speakers? Who do you have coming to the festival?
So we have an ever-evolving lineup. We've been talking with people for a while now to try and schedule these events, and we'll keep adding events until there's no more space, because that's how we roll. So we have a film discussion. We have 2 film discussions that are sort of with local experts. One is about Flawless, and we'll have Rabbi Later from Temple Israel. I think it's Temple Israel.
Temple Israel.
Eric, thank you. Good. So that's one of the ones with a local expert. Excuse me. The other is about City of Joel, and that's with Howard Lupovich from the Cohen Haddow Center for Judaic Studies at Wayne State. We have so many, I'm losing track in my head, but we have so Autism the Musical and Autism the Sequel. We have the woman whose program is featured in the documentary is going to do a talk about her work and about making the film. Fiddler, Miracle of Miracles, that's a documentary that we're showing that's about Fiddler on the Roof. And it's actually a really fascinating documentary. I have a sort of love-hate relationship with the musical, but as a documentary, it's really, really engaging. So the gentleman who wrote the score for the documentary is named Guy Mintis, and he is really this piano composing superstar and is amazing and wonderful. And he's going to do a discussion with us that will also include some performances. The performances will be pre-recorded because for him it will be 2 a.m. when we're talking, because he is very, very, he's in Israel, it's where he lives, and he's very kindly agreed to talk to us in the evening. I'm just pulling up the list here because, like I said, I can't keep them all in my head anymore. We have a discussion about both Deuce Points and Mossad, partially because I really love those, I guess. One is with so Deuce Points originally was a miniseries in Israel. So we'll be talking to the producer / showrunner. And I think he was one of the creators as well. And his name will be unfamiliar to people, but his films are, like, we've shown some of his other films. They'll probably be familiar, like his work will be familiar to the audience probably. We'll be talking with the writer-director of Mossad. We'll be talking with the director of Back to Maracana. We'll be talking so we're showing a documentary called They Ain't Ready for Me, about this rabbinical student who is also an activist against gun violence in Chicago. And she has this organization where a bunch of mothers basically just occupy a street corner to prevent gun violence. And it works in amazing way and does amazing things for the community. For there to be just a safe space there on the block. So the woman who is the subject of that documentary and the director of the documentary will be speaking to us. We have the director of the documentary Children of the Inquisition, which is about the history of the conversos or crypto Jews. Well, some of their history, and it sort of traces some family stories in a really interesting way. So we'll have the director and one of the women who was in the documentary. And then Born in Jerusalem and Still Alive, which is a sort of memoir of a film. It's a really interesting film. We're going to have the guy who wrote, directed, and starred in it. It's a real auteur of a filmmaker. So he's going to talk to us about that. So that is the lineup as it stands. We may have a few more added by the time the festival actually starts. So it's quite a range. And of course, all of that, I'm going to put up our website again because it feels like it's time. All of that you can find, here it is, on our website. And you can add things to your calendar and so you don't forget.
Well, it sounds like quite an exciting festival. I encourage everybody to sign up to visit the website and enjoy some new contemporary films. And I wanted to thank our panelists, Jaemi and Eric and Elliot. Thank you so much for this really interesting discussion, and hope to
Thank you.
see you all at the festival.
Our pleasure. Get a pass.
Get a pass. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you. Good
Have a
night,
great
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.